RAM is one of the easiest parts of your PC to get wrong, and it can silently tank your performance. People overspend on flashy specs that doesn't matter, or buy RAM that bottlenecks their CPU without realizing it. And the problem is, RAM is more complicated than it looks. DDR4 versus DDR5, DIMM versus SO-DIMM versus CUDIMM, speed, timings, ranks, channels, XMP, EXPO, even your CPU cooler can block certain kits. So in this video, I'll break down everything that actually matters for gaming in a way that finally makes sense, so you can pick the right RAM for your build without wasting any money. RAM is your PC's short-term memory, the place where the CPU keeps the data it needs right now. It sits in the middle of the memory hierarchy, much faster than the SSD, but still slower than the CPU's own L1, L2 and L3 caches. And inside a RAM kit, there's a whole structure designed to squeeze out as much parallel performance as possible. At the top you have the memory channels, and each channel can hold one or more DIMMs, the physical sticks that you install. Each DIMM is made up of ranks, which are groups of memory chips the CPU can access independently. Inside each chip you have banks. Finally, each bank is arranged as a giant grid of rows and columns, and every memory access is basically the CPU opening a row, selecting a column, and pulling the data it needs. All of this structure, the channels, the DIMMs, the ranks, the banks, the chips, the rows and the columns work together to keep your CPU fed with data so your system stays fast and responsive. Current options for generation of RAM are DDR4 and DDR5, with DDR5 being the newest as of the time of recording. Motherboard slots for DDR4 and 5 are not compatible with each other, and most CPUs are also not compatible with either DDR4 or DDR5, with the exception of Intel's 12, 13 and 14 series CPUs, which can work with both DDR4 or DDR5 depending on the motherboard. DDR5 performs better, but is also more expensive, requires a more expensive motherboard and a more expensive CPU. So for budget builds, I would recommend going with DDR4. Besides improved speeds and capacity, DDR5 also comes with an on-die ECC, which is an internal error correction mechanism built directly into each memory chip. This improves stability and compensates from reduced stability of having smaller cell sizes and larger capacity. But do note that this on-die ECC does not provide system-level error correction like true ECC RAM does. When buying RAM, it's important to note that there are two different form factors, one for desktop called DIMM and one for laptops called SO-DIMM. These are not compatible with each other. DIMM RAM is wide and usually not that tall, while SO-DIMM is not as wide but is taller. Besides DIMM, there are also some RAM models that are CUDIMM. CUDIMM models have a small clock buffering chip that redrives the clock signal to the DRAM, improving signal integrity and stability, thereby improving the possible speed. It looks the same and can be used in the same DIMM slots, but note that far from all consumer CPUs are compatible with them. So for now, I would just stick to using regular DIMM RAM. Clearance under a CPU cooler might be an issue if you have a very large air cooler and tall RAM. So make sure you check that the RAM you want isn't so tall that it will occupy the same space as the CPU cooler. RAM with RGB is typically taller, so be sure there's enough space before placing your order. If the RAM is only slightly too tall, then it's often possible to slightly lift the front fan on the CPU cooler to add some additional clearance to make it fit. But this does reduce CPU cooling slightly and also requires that the case is wide enough to accommodate lifting the CPU fan. RAM speed refers to how quickly a memory module can move data to and from the CPU and is typically expressed in megatransfers per second. Higher speeds means that the throughput of data is increased while the latency to fetch the specific piece of data is reduced. This is great for gaming, rendering and multitasking, although there are diminishing effects on performance from increasing RAM speeds. About 6000 MHz is usually a sweet spot for DDR5, while for DDR4 usually it's about 3200 to 3600 MHz. The speed of RAM isn't the only thing that matters for RAM performance. The timings of the RAM also play a large factor, with lower timings meaning less fan. However, it's important to remember that latency is a result of both the speed and the timings. So for the lowest possible latency, you want RAM that both have a high speed and have a low timing. RAM has both primary, secondary and tertiary timings. But for now we will focus on just the primary timings as they have the largest influence on performance. The four primary timings are cache latency, CL, GRCF, GRP and TRAS, which is typically represented such as 30, 36, 36, 76. Cache latency stands for column address strobe latency and is how many cycles of the RAM it takes to fetch the first piece of data. This is the main timing that people care about. An example could be CL30, meaning that it takes 30 cycles to fetch the first data. When combined with a speed such as 6000 MHz, we can calculate how much time it takes to fetch the first piece of data in seconds by first finding the actual memory clock by dividing the speed by 2, since we're using DDR double data rate RAM, so the actual memory clock in our example is 3000. By dividing 1 by our clock frequency, we get 0.333 nanoseconds per cycle. We then multiply the time per cycle with the number of cycles needed to fetch the first data, which in this example was 30. So 0.333 nanoseconds multiplied by 30 equals 10 nanoseconds. So if we have a cache miss, it would only take 10 nanoseconds to fetch the first piece of data from our RAM. The second timing was TRCD, which stands for rest to cache delay. It is the time between activating a row and accessing a column. The third primary timing was TRP, which stands for row recharge time. It is the time needed to close one row before opening up another row. The fourth primary timing was TRAS, which stands for active to pre-charge delay. It is the minimum time a row must stay open before it can be closed. Now let's talk about how many sticks of RAM to use. The preference is to use as many sticks of RAM as the CPU has channels to get the best performance. For consumer desktops, this will almost always be 2 sticks of RAM, as most consumer CPUs have 2 memory channels. It's also a possibility to use just 1 stick of RAM or 4 sticks of RAM. But when only using 1 stick of RAM, you will only be utilizing a single memory channel, thereby reducing performance. If you use 4 sticks of RAM, then the sticks will have to share the same 2 memory channels, also reducing performance. Therefore, the sweet spot for gaming is 2 sticks of RAM. Also note that when buying RAM, you would ideally want both sticks to come from the same RAM kit, as those 2 sticks have been tested together to ensure that they can hit the advertised speeds and timings. If you mix-match RAM sticks, you might be unlucky and the RAM will not be able to hit the advertised speeds and timings. On the same note, if you do mix-match RAM sticks, ensure that they have the same capacity, speed and timings, else you can have some issues. If the 2 RAM sticks have different capacity, then the RAM will run in dual channel for the first X amount of capacity, where X is the smallest amount of capacity amongst the 2 RAM sticks. This is not a huge issue, and the impact in gaming is not that large. If the 2 RAM sticks have different speeds, the system will downclock the fastest of the 2 sticks to the same speed as the slowest of the 2 sticks. This means that XMP and EXPO may fail and you may need to manually set the stable speed. If the 2 RAM sticks have different timings, then both sticks will run at the highest timing amongst the 2. Again, XMP and EXPO might not work, and you might need to set manual timings. If one stick is a single RAM and the other stick is dual rank, then it can stress the memory controller and you might need to slightly reduce the speed. In all of these cases, the system still boots and you just take a hit to the performance, but there can be other issues. If the RAM sticks are made by different manufacturers, the performance impact is usually pretty small, but they can be more unstable. If the RAM sticks use a different voltage, then you would have to choose between one voltage for all of the sticks. If you choose the lower voltage, then the high voltage stick might become unstable. And if you choose the high voltage, then the lower voltage stick might overheat or degrade. Mix and matching RAM sticks can result in multiple of these issues at the same time. Therefore, I would strongly recommend getting both sticks of RAM from the same RAM kit and save yourself some potential headaches down the line. EXPO and XMP are memory overclocking profiles built into your RAM sticks that let your motherboard automatically apply the correct speed, voltage and timings without manual tuning. XMP stands for Extreme Memory Profile and it's Intel standard, while EXPO, Extended Profiles for Overclocking, is AMD's equivalent. Both serve the same purpose. Instead of running your RAM at slow default JEDEC speed, like 4800 megatransfers per second, they load the manufacturer tested performance settings, such as 6000 megatransfers per second and CL30 with a single toggle. Setting them up is simple. Enter your BIOS, find the memory or overclocking section and enable XMP or EXPO. Most motherboards offer multiple profiles, so choose the one matching your RAM's advertised speeds. Then save and reboot and verify the new speed in Windows using Task Manager or tools such like CPU set. If the system becomes unstable, drop to the secondary profile or slightly lower frequency. Otherwise, you're good to go. Many new PC builders might not have known this, and they might end up paying for expensive fast RAM but without ever activating the overclocking profiles. So if you do go for fast RAM, make sure to enable the overclocking profile. It only takes a few minutes. When planning your budget, RAM normally doesn't take up that much of the total cost. Not long ago, you could buy 32 gigabytes of 6000 MHz CL30 DDR5 RAM for around only $85, which on a $1000 build was only 8.5% of the budget. But with recent spikes in prices of DDR5, especially for high-end, low-latency kits, you may now need to allocate as much as 15 to 20% of your budget just to get the same capacity and speed. And because the premium for fast kits like 6000 MHz CL30 has grown so much, it's worth questioning whether that money is better spent elsewhere. In many cases, choosing a slightly slower RAM kit and putting a saving towards a stronger CPU gives you more real-world performance, since memory speeds and CPU capability work together. The difference between RAM performance is often smaller than the uplift you get from a more powerful processor. If you don't want to track all of that manually, head over to MaxMyBuild.com. We factor in these compatibility checks automatically, while also looking at benchmarks and current pricing of all components. You just need to put in your budget and needs, and the tool ensures you get the best performance for your budget. If this guide helped you avoid a bottleneck, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next one.